The lecture hall was one of the largest ever built by the council. It floated in open space, held together by glowing rings and silent gravity fields. Thousands of seats curved upward like a great bowl. Every seat was filled. Beings of many shapes, colors, and sizes sat together, all facing the same wide platform. This hall was used only for important moments. First contact briefings, warnings, history lessons about fallen worlds. Today it was meant to be a simple lecture. The subject was humanity. Most species in the hall knew little about humans. They were late arrivals to the galactic stage. They had no ancient empires in space, no long record of ruling others. Their homeworld was marked dangerous in old surveys. High gravity, unstable climate, violent life forms. Because of this, many believed humans survived by luck or by help from others. Soft lights brightened the platform. A single human stood there. He was not tall compared to some species, but he stood straight. His hair was gray, his face lined with age. He wore simple dark clothing with no symbols, no weapons, no armor. His hands rested calmly at his sides. A quiet murmur moved through the hall. Some aliens leaned forward, curious. Others leaned back, cautious. A few watched with open doubt. The speaker waited until the hall grew still. He looked around slowly, meeting many eyes. When he spoke, his voice was clear but gentle. He did not raise it. "My world," he said, "was never kind to us." Images appeared behind him. A blue and green planet, beautiful from afar. Then the image changed. Storms covered the surface, oceans raged, mountains cracked with fire. Thick forests hid moving shadows. "Our world tried to kill us," the human continued. Every day, the hall was quiet. Many species came from calm worlds. Some came from engineered habitats. Few had evolved on places like this. The image shifted again. Large creatures appeared. Teeth, claws, speed, power. "These were not our enemies," the human said. "They were simply alive." Some listeners relaxed slightly. This sounded familiar. Survival stories were common. But then the human raised his head. "We did not run forever," he said. "We did not hide until the danger passed." The image changed again. Small human figures appeared, holding tools. Fire burned in their hands. Lines were drawn on the ground. Traps were built. Paths were studied. "We learned," the human said. "We watched. We waited. We followed." A low tension spread through the hall. "We hunted." That word echoed. The human did not smile. "At first we hunted to eat. Then we hunted to protect. Then we hunted because if we did not, we would die." The images became faster. Spears, bows, nets. Cooperation. Groups moving as one. A scholar from a winged species tilted their head. "Predators," they whispered to a neighbor. "No," the neighbor replied quietly. "Strategists," the human continued. "As we grew smarter, the world did not become safer," he said. "It became smaller." The images showed forests shrinking, large creatures falling, fire spreading across land. "We hunted everything that could end us," the human said. "Big or small, fast or slow." The hall was silent now. Even species that breathed loudly were quiet. Then the image changed again. Humans faced humans. Clubs, blades. Later, machines. Cities burned. Crowds fled. Lines were drawn not by land, but by belief. The human paused. "This is the part many of you fear," he said. "And you should." His eyes were steady. "We hunted each other." A sharp intake of breath came from somewhere in the hall. The human did not stop. "We fought for food, for land, for ideas, for power, for pride." The images slowed. Graves, ruins, broken cities. Then rebuilding. Hands lifting stone. Children learning, books opening. "We nearly ended ourselves," he said. More than once, a being with glowing skin raised a limb. "Then why are you here?" it asked. "If you were so broken?" The human looked at them. He nodded once. "Because we learned a final hunt," he said. The lights dimmed slightly. "We learned to hunt our worst instincts." Confusion moved through the audience. The human spoke on. "We learned that not every threat is outside," he said. "Some live in the mind, in fear, in anger." Images showed councils forming, laws written, protests, failures, more protests. "We failed many times," the human admitted. "But we kept trying." A young alien student shifted nervously. "Are they confessing?" they whispered. "Or warning us?" On the back row, another human sat quietly, younger, alert. Their eyes moved across the hall, studying reactions. They said nothing. On the platform, the speaker straightened. "You invited us here to understand us," he said, "not to fear us." He looked around the massive hall. "But fear is not wrong," he added. "Fear kept us alive." A ripple of unease passed through the listeners. "Our world taught us this," the human said. "Everything can be a threat, even yourself." He stepped forward one small pace. "So we hunted everything on our world," he said, "even ourselves." The words hung in the air. No one spoke. The images behind him faded to darkness. For a long moment, only silence remained. Then, far above, the hall lights dimmed further, signaling the end of the opening segment. The human stepped back. He did not bow. He simply waited. And in that silence, every species present understood one thing clearly. Humanity was not a mistake of chance. It was a result of choice. The hall remained still after the human's first words. The audience was silent, but their minds raced. Beings from planets of calm oceans, gentle winds, and endless forests found it hard to imagine such a world. Even the youngest scholars were wide-eyed, struggling to understand how a species could survive when it hunted everything around it, including itself. The older human speaker moved slowly across the platform, hands clasped behind his back. Behind him, new images appeared, showing Earth in greater detail. Fires burned on mountains, storms lashed coastlines, and massive beasts moved across forests. There were creatures with sharp teeth, some larger than buildings, some faster than any alien vehicle. Humans were shown chasing them, using weapons and traps, learning every pattern, every movement. "Our survival was not luck," the speaker said quietly. "It was learning, observation, patience." A murmuring started among the crowd. A few beings whispered to one another. "Patience," one said. "In the middle of so much danger?" Another shook their head. "They must be reckless." The speaker raised his hand slightly. "Do not confuse violence with recklessness," he said. "We were careful. Every hunt had rules. Every action had a reason. Without rules, we would not survive." The images shifted again. Humans were shown in groups, small and large, cooperating in ways that amazed the audience. They made signals, built traps, and used fire not to destroy but to control. Some aliens leaned closer. Many species rarely saw such intelligence used in direct survival. One young alien, pale-skinned and long-limbed, whispered to a friend, "They are not strong like us physically, yet they move like the wind and strike like the storm." "Yes," the friend replied softly, "but even that is simple if guided by instinct. What amazes me is their control." The human speaker paused. "We faced extinction many times," he said. "Not from one enemy, but from everything around us. From hunger, from climate, from the predators we could not yet fight. And from ourselves." The hall shifted uncomfortably. Alien beings that had never faced true danger felt a chill. They understood that humans were shaped not by comfort, but by constant threat. "Humans," the speaker continued, "learned quickly. We learned to predict. We learned to plan. We learned to turn fear into knowledge. We turned every threat into a lesson." Another set of images appeared, showing humans building shelters in freezing lands, lighting fires against wild storms, and standing together against creatures that could crush them in seconds. Their tools were simple, but their minds were sharp. The audience began to understand. Humans survived not because they were lucky or big or fast, but because they studied everything carefully. A being with translucent skin and eyes like glowing crystals raised a limb. "You speak of survival," it said, "but what about killing? What about your own kind?" The speaker looked directly at it. "We hunted each other as well. Not always for food, not always for land, but sometimes for survival, sometimes for mistakes, sometimes to learn our own limits. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times." The hall grew quieter. Many beings had never heard such honesty from another species. Most avoided the truth of their failures. But the human did not shy away. "We were forced," he said, "to confront our own weaknesses, our own anger, our own fear. We learned that if we could not control ourselves, we would die." Images of conflict between humans appeared. Small villages fighting for water, cities collapsing from war, humans standing over others with weapons then lowering them again, children hiding, learning, crying, humans dying, and others rebuilding. The younger human in the back of the hall shifted, observing the reactions of the aliens. She did not speak. She simply watched, Noting every expression, every flicker of fear or awe, the older speaker continued, "We hunted animals to understand the world. We hunted challenges to understand ourselves. And we hunted our own kind to understand what it meant to be human." A murmur traveled through the audience. They were beginning to see the pattern. Humans were dangerous not because they were careless, but because they were disciplined. They were dangerous because they faced danger willingly, not only outside, but inside themselves. "Do not mistake our past for chaos," the speaker said firmly. "Every hunt, every battle, every death taught us control. Every loss taught us caution. Every mistake taught us patience. Humanity became what it is because we studied life and death alike." An alien scholar whose skin shimmered in soft blues and greens spoke out. "But why reveal this now? Why tell us that you hunted each other?" The human looked at the scholar. "Because you need to understand us," he said. "We are not the weak species you imagine. We are survivors. We are hunters. And we do not forget what keeps us alive." He stepped closer to the edge of the platform. "Some of you think our world was destroyed by nature. It was not. Some think we were destroyed by war. We were not. We were shaped by choice. Every hunt, every conflict, every survival required thought, planning, and decision. We chose what we would become." Another alien, this one covered in scales, hissed softly. "Then you are a threat. A species that learned control through destruction is dangerous." The human smiled slightly. "Not with arrogance, but with understanding." "We are dangerous," he admitted, "but not careless. We do not kill without reason. We do not strike without thought. Every step is measured. Every action has meaning." He paused, letting the words sink in. The hall was completely silent. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and abilities stared. Many had never encountered a species like this, one that balanced the power to destroy with the wisdom to choose when to act. The images shifted one last time. Humans were shown walking through forests, touching plants, studying animals. They were shown helping each other after storms. They were shown tending to the weak, teaching the young, and building communities. "We learned," the speaker said softly, "that survival is more than strength. It is more than speed. It is understanding. Understanding of the world. Understanding of life. And most importantly, understanding of oneself." The audience began to feel a strange mix of fear and admiration. They understood now that humans were not merely strong or dangerous. They were clever, calculated, adaptable. The young alien student, still leaning forward, whispered, "I do not know if I admire them or fear them more." The older speaker nodded slightly. "That is the proper feeling," he said. "Fear and respect are two sides of the same coin. We teach each other through both. And those who survive understand the balance." He took a step back, letting silence fill the hall again. The younger human in the back quietly activated a small device. It recorded the reactions of everyone in the hall, micro-expressions, changes in temperature, subtle changes in posture. This was not for threat, she explained to herself silently, but for study. Humans learn from everything. Why would they ignore this moment? The speaker's voice cut through the quiet once more. "Remember this, the galaxy is full of life. Some are gentle, some are strong, some are clever, but few have faced what we faced and survived. Few have chosen to study every danger and turn it into knowledge. That is what makes humans different." He raised his hand one final time. "And we are still learning." The hall remained silent long after his words. No one moved. No one spoke. The aliens were overwhelmed not by brute strength, but by the simple, terrifying truth. Humans survived by choice, by discipline, by facing every danger willingly, even the dangers inside themselves. Finally, a single, small voice whispered from the edge of the audience, "And they say we are the evolved ones." The human on the platform did not answer. He did not need to. The silence, the images, and the weight of his words carried the answer for everyone present. Humanity was not luck. Humanity was the result of facing everything, studying everything, and surviving everything, even themselves. And in that hall, that knowledge settled over every being like a shadow they could not ignore. The hall remained heavy with silence after the second lecture segment. The audience could not stop thinking about the humans' words. They whispered to one another quietly, their voices trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. Many could not believe that any species had survived by hunting not just the world, but themselves. Others questioned if humans were confessing their past or issuing a warning. The older human speaker took a deep breath and began walking slowly across the platform again. He did not rush. Every movement was deliberate, measured. His eyes scanned the room, meeting the gaze of every species. There was no anger in his expression, no pride, only truth. Some of you may think that survival alone defines strength, he began. But strength without control is chaos. Survival without thought is merely luck. Humans became strong not by accident, but by learning when to act and when to wait. The images behind him changed. Now they showed humans facing other humans in battle. Fires burned cities. Crowds ran through smoke. Spears and arrows flew. But the images were not random. They highlighted moments of hesitation, moments of restraint, humans sparing others even when they could have killed, humans choosing to retreat when the outcome was uncertain. A winged alien scholar leaned forward. "You speak of restraint," it said, its voice low and melodic, "and yet you hunted everything. How do you balance killing and mercy?" The human speaker nodded. "We learn through consequence," he said. "Every time we killed without purpose, we paid a price. Every time we spared a life, we learned another lesson. Every hunt, every battle, every choice shaped us. We learned discipline because we had no choice but to survive." A murmur passed through the audience. Some beings looked away, unwilling to face the truth. Others leaned closer, their curiosity burning. They began to realize that humans were not reckless predators, but calculated survivors. The thought unsettled many. The images shifted again. Now they showed humans in frozen lands facing storms and hunger. Some carried others on their backs. Some worked together to build shelters from broken ice. They were small and fragile compared to the harsh environment, yet they survived. Slowly, the audience began to understand that humans had developed a unique kind of intelligence, not the intelligence of technology alone, but of instinct, observation, and strategy combined. The speaker's voice became quiet but firm. "We did not seek war," he said. "We did not seek enemies. We only sought to understand the world and survive in it. But the world does not wait for understanding. It attacks. It challenges. And so we learned to hunt, not only for food or safety, but for knowledge." An alien with crystalline skin raised a hand. "And what of your own kind?" it asked. "You said humans hunted each other. That is not survival. That is madness." The speaker's eyes did not falter. "It is the hardest lesson any species can learn," he said. "Sometimes the greatest threat is within. Sometimes the mind, the fear, the anger within ourselves is more dangerous than any predator outside. Humans learn to confront it. We learn to fight it, to study it, and to survive it." The younger human at the back of the hall watched carefully. She adjusted a small device on her arm that monitored audience reactions. It was subtle, nearly invisible, but it recorded every heartbeat change, every flicker of muscle, every shift in posture. Humans learned from everything, even reactions. The speaker stepped closer to the front of the platform. "Every species believes it knows itself," he said. "Every species believes it can control its nature. Humans have known our nature since the beginning. We have hunted our own flaws. We have learned from fear. We have survived despair. We have endured hunger and rage and hopelessness, and we continue to learn." A being with dark, mottled skin whispered to its neighbor, "They are not boastful. They are honest." Terrifyingly honest. The images now shifted to humans observing creatures, not killing them. Watching patterns, studying behavior, recording everything. A young human took notes. Another drew diagrams. Another set traps carefully without harming the creature. Observation became a hunt of its own kind. A hunt for knowledge, for survival, for understanding. The speaker's voice remained calm. "Our hunts did not end with destruction. They ended with wisdom. We learned to see the world clearly. We learned the value of patience, of timing, of choosing the right action. We learned the hardest lesson, that true strength is control." The audience was silent. Many beings leaned forward, absorbing every word. Some could feel their own hearts beating faster, a mix of fear and admiration. They were beginning to see that humans were not merely strong. They were dangerous because they were disciplined. Dangerous because they had learned from every failure. Dangerous because they could face any threat and choose the best path. The human speaker paused. "And yet," he said, "our greatest lessons came from the mistakes we made. Every war lost, every friend betrayed, every choice made in fear taught us something new. Humans do not forget. Humans do not ignore consequences. We survive because we study the cost of every action, the effect of every decision." A young alien scholar, pale and frail, whispered, "They have a memory not just for events, but for understanding. They calculate life itself." "Yes," replied another quietly. and they do not fear it. The speaker's eyes scanned the audience again. You invited us to share our history, he said. Not all histories are proud, not all stories are easy. Ours is one of survival, of learning, of facing dangers most species cannot imagine. Some of you fear us. That is natural. Fear keeps us alive. But do not mistake fear for weakness. We survived because we faced what others could not. The images shifted one last time. Humans were shown helping each other, even when resources were scarce. They shared food. They carried the injured. They rebuilt what had been destroyed. Compassion, the speaker explained, was a strategy. Survival depended not only on strength, but on cooperation. The younger human at the back of the hall quietly recorded every detail. Humans learned from both action and reaction. They understood that the audience itself was part of the lesson. Every gasp, every whisper, every glance told a story. The older speaker moved to the center of the platform. We hunted everything on our world, he said. We studied it, we understood it, and we survived it. And we hunted ourselves. Only by learning from every threat, external and internal, did we become who we are. Humans are the result of choice. We survived because we chose to learn, to adapt, and to control ourselves. The hall was still. Every being present could feel the weight of the words. Humans were not merely survivors. They were deliberate, they were patient, they were dangerous, but precise. A soft, nervous whisper traveled through the rows. I thought I knew strength, said a young alien scholar, but I was wrong. The speaker nodded slightly. Strength without understanding is meaningless, he said. Humans learned to face danger not by denying it, not by running from it, but by studying it, mastering it, and using it wisely. The audience began to realize that humanity's story was not only a tale of survival, but a lesson for the galaxy. Every being, no matter how advanced, no matter how strong, could learn from humans. The lesson was simple, yet terrifying. Intelligence combined with discipline and courage could overcome anything, even the deadliest threats. The older human took a step back. He allowed a long pause. The audience remained silent. They had not been taught this kind of history before. Most species glorified peace, technology, or conquest. Few faced the truth of survival so openly. Finally, the speaker spoke one last time. We are not gods, he said. We are not invincible. We are humans. We are hunters. And we continue to learn from every threat, every challenge, every choice we make. That is why we survived, and that is why we are here. The silence in the hall grew heavier. Every being present realized that humans were not merely a weak or late species. Humans had survived the impossible. Humans had hunted not only the world, but themselves, and emerged stronger, smarter, more disciplined. And for the first time, many in the hall felt something unfamiliar. Not just fear, not just admiration. Respect. And also caution, because they understood now that humans were not reckless predators. They were intelligent hunters, trained by survival, honed by experience, and unafraid to face even themselves. The lecture continued silently, the images fading one by one, leaving the audience with only the thought that humanity was unlike anything they had ever encountered. They had learned a new definition of power, and it was terrifyingly precise. The lecture hall was still after the third segment. The air felt heavy with thought. Every being present was processing what they had just seen and heard. Humans were not merely survivors. They were hunters in a way the galaxy had never imagined. Some whispered nervously. Others stared blankly, unsure if they felt admiration, fear, or both. The older human speaker stepped forward again. He did not rush, his movements calm and precise. Behind him, the images had faded, leaving only darkness. His voice filled the hall quietly, firmly. You have seen our history, he said. You have seen what we survived. You have seen how we became who we are. But history is not only in the past. It is in the present, in every challenge, in every moment when survival is tested. Suddenly, the hall's communication system buzzed. A red alert flashed on the main display. A colony on a distant planet had been attacked. The attackers were unknown, moving faster than any galactic fleet had predicted. Panic rippled through the audience. Alien representatives whispered among themselves, some rising to check their devices. The speaker did not flinch. He moved closer to the edge of the platform, eyes narrowing slightly. Show me the details, he said calmly. Images filled the screens. Explosions. Buildings collapsing. Civilians running in panic. The attackers were swift and coordinated. Ships moved through the atmosphere like shadows, striking and disappearing. Many of the attackers were unidentifiable, their form unlike anything catalogued in the galaxy. The alien leaders muttered among themselves. They had faced threats before, but this one moved with a precision that alarmed even the most experienced commanders. The young human at the back of the hall stood silently. She watched the screens, recording every reaction of the alien audience. Her eyes scanned the hall, noting fear, doubt, and hesitation. Humans did not act first without understanding. Observation came first. Knowledge came first. The older human spoke again, quietly but with authority. These attackers follow patterns. I have seen this before, long ago, on my world. Not the form, but the method. Hunt, predict, corner, strike, repeat. They move like prey, but they are the hunters. A winged alien commander stepped forward, his voice sharp. And what do you propose? Our fleets are engaged. Many will die. You are telling us to trust humans in this? The speaker's eyes did not move from the display. Trust is earned, he said, but hesitation is costly. Let us act. We will control the operation. We will hunt the threat as we have hunted every threat we have faced before. A murmur of unease passed through the hall. Many species were not ready to give humans control. They remembered the stories of Earth, the tales of hunting and self-destruction. Some feared what humans might do if left unchecked. Others feared waiting while humans were ready to act. The human turned his gaze to the alien council members. You will watch and learn, he said, or you will wait and suffer. The choice is yours. The council debated, some loudly, some quietly. Time passed, but the attack continued without pause. Images of destruction grew. The attackers struck key structures, moved with speed, and vanished before any fleet could respond. Panic began to spread on the affected planet. The older human raised a hand. We cannot wait for perfection, he said. We must move. Humans will take control. We will observe, predict, and corner the enemy. Precision is more important than speed. Every action must have purpose. Every step must be measured. Some alien leaders finally nodded reluctantly. They had no choice. The threat moved too quickly for their fleets to respond effectively. Humans, it seemed, might be the only ones able to act decisively. The young human in the back activated a communication device. She coordinated quietly with other humans stationed nearby. They began to deploy, moving through space in small, precise squads. Their ships were simple, unarmed in appearance, but their sensors were sharp, their predictions accurate. Every movement was calculated. Every maneuver anticipated the enemy's behavior. The audience watched in silence. No one spoke. The older human on the platform narrated softly, explaining the methods. We study patterns. We predict behavior. We do not attack blindly. The hunter does not waste energy. The hunter waits for the right moment. The hunter strikes once, but with certainty. The alien commanders were baffled. The humans moved slower than expected, almost leisurely, yet the enemy could not escape. Every maneuver of the attackers seemed anticipated. Every escape route blocked. Ships that had been too fast for fleets to follow now fell into carefully constructed traps. The older human paused. You see, he said, strength alone is not enough. Discipline, patience, observation, and control are what allow a hunter to succeed. We face danger not by rushing into it, but by understanding it first. The enemy began to falter. One by one, the attackers' formations collapsed. Their patterns, once unpredictable to fleets, were now exposed. Humans directed the operation with quiet efficiency. The alien leaders could only watch, their faces pale and eyes wide. Finally, the human speaker signaled the final phase. The enemy leader, a massive, fast-moving creature, was cornered. Instead of killing it, the humans restrained it with precision, trapping it without unnecessary destruction. The audience gasped. Not a single human ship had fired a destructive weapon beyond what was necessary to control movement. The enemy was captured alive. The older human turned to the hall. Do you understand now? He asked. Humans are not just survivors. We are hunters. We do not destroy carelessly. We do not act without thought. We predict, we plan, we control, and when the time comes, we strike and succeed. The alien audience remained silent. Shock, disbelief, and awe filled the hall. Many realized that humans had not only stopped the attack, they had done so in a way that minimized destruction, maximized efficiency, and preserved life where possible. A pale, winged alien whispered, "They do not merely fight. They think. They control. They adapt. Yes, another said softly. And they are patient. Terrifyingly patient. The older human speaker's eyes scanned the room. We hunted our world. We hunted each other. And now we hunt threats in space. Not for glory, not for conquest, but because it is what is necessary. Every hunt is a lesson. Every challenge teaches us more. And every life taken or spared carries meaning. The younger human at the back of the hall deactivated her monitoring device. She had recorded the reactions of every being in the audience, noting fear, admiration, and caution. Every detail was a lesson for the future. Humans never wasted information. Every observation mattered. The older human stepped back from the platform. His voice softened. You may fear us. That is natural. You may admire us. That is also natural. But remember this. Humans are not reckless. We are precise. We are controlled. And we have learned from every mistake, every threat, every hunt. The hall remained silent. The images of the distant colony faded, leaving only the memory of the human's methodical control. For the first time, many in the audience felt something more than fear. They felt respect and cautious hope. The older human speaker did not bow, did not wait for applause. He simply stood, letting silence speak for him. The lesson was clear. Humans were not just survivors of a harsh world. They were hunters shaped by experience, discipline, and understanding. And now, humanity was watching the galaxy, prepared to act when necessary, learning from every threat, ready to hunt again if needed. The audience could only absorb the weight of this knowledge and wonder what it truly meant to face a species so practiced in both survival and control. The hall remained tense long after the humans had contained the distant colony threat. Every being present was quiet, absorbing the lessons and the proof of humanity's capability. Some could not stop whispering to each other. Others stared in stunned silence. The older human speaker stood at the center of the platform, calm and steady, as though he had already anticipated every thought in the room. He began again, his voice measured. You have seen our past. You have seen our actions in the present. Now you will understand how we act when every choice matters. Survival is not random. Hunting is not chaos. Precision is everything. Behind him, the images shifted to the distant colony, played of humans moving with deliberate care. Each ship, each squad, each maneuver was calculated to trap the attackers, to corner them, to control them without unnecessary destruction. Alien observers could see how humans seemed to know where the enemy would move before it even acted. A crystalline-skinned being whispered to its neighbor, "They anticipate." They predict. How is this possible? The older human smiled faintly without arrogance. Observation, calculation, and learning. Every hunt, every battle, every life taken or spared teaches a lesson. The hunter remembers, studies, and adapts. That is why humans succeed where others fail. The young human at the back of the hall adjusted her monitoring device. She focused not on the images, but on the reactions of the audience. Every gasp, every shift in posture, every rapid intake of breath was information. Humans learned from the world, from their surroundings, and from the reactions of others. Nothing went unnoticed. The images shifted again. This time, they focused on the enemy leader, trapped by precise human maneuvers. The creature moved violently, striking at humans with speed and power. Each movement was calculated to test the humans' control. The humans did not panic. They adjusted, shifted, predicted, and restrained. Slowly, methodically, they contained the creature without unnecessary harm. An alien commander, covered in scales, hissed softly. Even with this advantage, it should have escaped, yet it does not. The older human speaker nodded. We do not rely solely on strength. Strength alone is easy to predict. Strategy, patience, and learning make us capable of achieving what seems impossible. The hunter does not rush. The hunter does not act recklessly. The hunter observes, calculates, and waits for the perfect moment to strike. The alien audience began to murmur quietly, some with fear, some with admiration. They realized that humans were not reckless predators, but disciplined hunters who had mastered both instinct and intellect. The images now showed humans communicating silently, coordinating without words. Each small squad moved like a single organism, anticipating the enemy's actions. The alien audience saw how every step had meaning. Nothing was wasted. Every motion, every maneuver, every decision was part of a plan. The speaker's voice remained calm. Precision is survival. Observation is power. Knowledge is a weapon sharper than any blade. Humanity survived because we learned to apply every lesson, every failure, every encounter to the next challenge. And we continue to do so. A winged alien leaned toward its neighbor. They are not merely clever. They are disciplined to a degree we cannot imagine. Yes, the neighbor whispered. And they are patient, terrifyingly patient, the older human continued, his gaze sweeping across the room. Now, observe the final phase. The enemy is cornered. We do not destroy recklessly. We do not strike blindly. Every action must have meaning. Every life, even that of an enemy, is valuable. The hunter does not waste effort or life unnecessarily. The images displayed the humans restraining the enemy leader. It struggled, furious and powerful, but humans moved with precision. The enemy could not escape, not because it was weak, but because humans had predicted its every movement. Their coordination, their understanding of patterns, their anticipation and patience had left no opening. The hall fell completely silent. Not one being spoke. Every alien present could see the terrifying truth. Humans were not merely strong. They were exacting, deliberate, and in control. They hunted with intelligence, patience, and discipline, and they never acted recklessly. The older human speaker stepped back slightly. You now see the difference, he said softly. Strength alone is simple. Control, intelligence, and discipline are rare. Humans combine all three. We adapt, we learn, we predict. We do not destroy without purpose. We do not act without thought. That is why we survive. That is why we are capable. The young human in the back quietly deactivated her monitoring device. She had recorded every reaction of the audience, noting their fear, admiration, and astonishment. Humans never wasted information. Every detail mattered, and everything was remembered. The speaker raised his hand, signaling the conclusion of the demonstration. We hunted everything on our world. We hunted every danger, every predator, and even ourselves. We studied every action and learned from every mistake. And now we hunt threats beyond our world, applying the same lessons. Survival is never random. Success comes from learning, patience, and precise action. The images faded. The distant colony was safe. The enemy threat had been neutralized, captured alive, and studied. Not a single human had acted without purpose. Not a single life had been wasted unnecessarily. The hall remained silent. The weight of what had occurred filled every corner. Alien scholars whispered to one another, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others leaning forward in awe. They realized that humans were not reckless hunters. They were intelligent, disciplined, and precise predators, capable of facing threats far greater than themselves and succeeding where others failed. The older human stepped back fully, allowing the silence to carry his message. We are humans, he said quietly. We are hunters. We are survivors, and we continue to learn from every challenge. That is what makes us what we are. That is why we are here. That is why we endure. The audience remained quiet, their minds racing with what they had witnessed. Respect, fear, and astonishment blended together. Humans had not only survived impossible conditions, they had done so with intelligence, precision, and control. They were hunters in the truest sense, capable of mastering danger, learning from it, and acting with perfect timing. And for the first time, many in the hall understood that humans were not only survivors, they were a force shaped by discipline, intelligence, and relentless observation, ready to act whenever the galaxy required. The memory of what had happened in the distant colony would remain in the minds of every observer as proof of humanity's precision, patience, and terrifying capability. The lecture hall was quieter than ever. The audience was still their minds heavy with the truth they had witnessed. Humans had not only survived impossible odds on their homeworld, they had mastered survival itself. Every creature, every challenge, every conflict, even each human's own weaknesses had been faced and overcome. And now, the galaxy had seen the result. The older human speaker stepped forward. He did not hurry. He did not gesture unnecessarily. His eyes scanned the room, calm and steady, taking in every reaction, every expression. The silence in the hall was not awkward. It was full of understanding. Every being present felt the weight of what had been shown. Humans were not weak, not reckless, not ordinary. We have shown you our past, the speaker began. We have shown you our present. You have seen how we survive, how we hunt, how we adapt. But our story does not end there. Survival is not the same as peace. Learning is not the same as rest. Humanity continues to face threats, challenges, and dangers, both from outside and from within. The images behind him shifted, showing humans at work in quiet places, scientists studying plants, soldiers training carefully, families teaching children. Each scene was simple, ordinary, and yet deliberate. Everything humans did was for learning, for preparation, for survival. There was no waste, no careless action. You may ask, the speaker continued, why humans do not dominate the galaxy, why we do not conquer every world we see. The answer is simple. We do not need to. Humanity survives not by ruling others, but by mastering ourselves. Strength is only valuable when it is guided by wisdom. Power is only meaningful when it is disciplined. And knowledge is only useful when it is applied. The audience remained still. Many of them had never heard a species speak so plainly, so honestly about its own capabilities. Few had ever witnessed a species that balanced power, intelligence, and control so carefully. The older human's calmness made the lesson even more striking. A young alien scholar whispered, "They do not seek glory. They seek understanding." "Yes," another replied quietly. "And they are terrifying because they act only when necessary." The older human nodded slightly, acknowledging the whispering without addressing it directly. "Humans learned on a world that could kill in every moment," he said. "We hunted because it was necessary. We studied because knowledge kept us alive. We confronted ourselves because fear, anger, and pride were threats as deadly as any predator, and through all of it, we survived." The images changed again, showing humans helping each other after storms, teaching young humans to understand danger, and rebuilding communities after disasters. Compassion, the speaker explained, was a form of survival. It was a lesson in trust, cooperation, and patience. Life was strongest when it worked together, even against impossible odds. A translucent-skinned alien in the audience leaned toward its neighbor. "They learn from everything. Even failure is a lesson." "Yes," whispered the neighbor, "and they remember. Nothing is wasted." The older human moved to the front of the platform, stepping closer to the edge. "You may fear us," he said quietly. "That is natural. You may admire us. That is also natural. Fear and respect are both necessary for learning. Every being that survives must understand both. Humans learned long ago that understanding threats, respecting them, and learning from them ensures survival. Ignorance leads to death. Fear without understanding leads to destruction. But understanding combined with control, patience, and learning leads to survival." The younger human at the back of the hall observed the audience carefully. Her device recorded reactions, noting subtle changes in expression, posture, and heartbeat. Humans never wasted information. Every observation, every response, every reaction was remembered and studied. Even now, the audience itself was part of the lesson. The images now shifted to humans in space, quietly observing distant planets, studying unknown species, and monitoring the galaxy. Some humans moved swiftly when necessary, but always with calculation, always with control. The older human's voice cut through the silence. "We do not seek conquest. We do not seek domination. But we do watch. We do learn. We do act when necessary. Humanity survives because we are ready for the dangers the universe may present. We hunt knowledge. We hunt threats. And when required, we hunt danger itself. We are hunters by nature, but hunters guided by discipline, patience, and intelligence." The hall was completely still. Every being present felt a deep weight pressing on them. Humans were not just survivors or warriors. They were strategists, teachers, observers, and hunters, capable of predicting, adapting, and acting with terrifying precision. The older human took a slow breath. "We have hunted everything on our world," he said. "We hunted predators, dangers, and even ourselves. We learned the value of every choice, the consequence of every action, the cost of every failure. Humanity exists because we faced every danger and learned from it. That is why we endure. That is why we continue. That is why we are here." The images faded completely, leaving the hall in darkness. For a long moment, no one spoke. Every alien present understood that humanity was unlike any other species they had encountered. Humans were not reckless.
They were not mindless. They were not only strong.
They were precise, disciplined, patient, and unafraid to face both the world and themselves. A pale-winged alien whispered to its neighbor, "They are not heroes. They are not rulers. They are guardians in a way we cannot yet understand." The neighbor nodded slowly. "Yes, and dangerous, because they act with understanding, not impulse." The older human speaker stepped back fully from the platform. He did not bow. He did not wait for applause. His lesson was complete. Humanity's past, present, and principles had been shown. The weight of their story, of their survival, of their discipline, carried itself without embellishment. He looked over the audience one last time. "Remember this," he said quietly. "Humans survived everything on our world. We hunted every danger. We hunted ourselves. We learned from every mistake, and we continue to learn. That is what makes humanity who we are. That is why we endure. That is why we survive." The hall remained silent. Slowly, beings began to rise, some in awe, some in contemplation, some in fear. Every whisper, every movement, every thought was a recognition of what they had witnessed. Humans were not just survivors, they were hunters, strategists, observers, and guardians, shaped by a brutal past, trained by experience, and capable of facing anything the universe might present. And as the humans left the platform, quietly without ceremony, the audience understood something that words could not fully capture. Humanity had faced itself, mastered itself, and now faced the galaxy. They were calm, patient, precise, and ready, and they would continue to watch, to learn, and if necessary, to hunt again. For the first time, many in the hall realized that humans were not merely a species among many. Humans were a force shaped by experience, guided by intelligence, and tempered by the harshest lessons imaginable. And, in that understanding, every being in the hall felt a mix of fear, respect, and awe, knowing that humanity's story was far from over, and the galaxy itself would one day see the full measure of what humans had become.